Welcome, everybody. We're so glad everybody's here today, and we'll get started now. And we want to welcome you to Courageous Conversations Over Coffee. It's presented by the South Coast Interfaith Council. And my name is Marietta Fong. I'm a member of the board of the council and a member of the Rolling Hills United Methodist Church here in the South Bay area of Los Angeles County, California. Since early 2020, we've been hosting these conversations on Zoom, recorded and shared later via YouTube. The program will last about 45 minutes or so. First, we'll have some general conversation, and then during the Q&A section, you'll have the opportunity to send questions to the chat via the chat box located at the bottom of your screen, so that then I can share those with our guest. So the mission of the South Coast Interfaith Council includes providing conversation and education among its members, advocating for marginalized people, and most of all, fostering peace, compassion, kindness, openness, and trust. We hope these conversations will help fulfill our mission. They are sometimes challenging and always enlightening. So today's guest, Chief Ramos, will help us understand the National Day of Mourning to be observed later this month and the White Buffalo prophecy of the Great Healing. I'll give you a brief introduction first. Daniel Ramos, Eagle That Speaks, is the Chief Spiritual Elder of the Choctaw Muskogee Yamasee Nation. He's a board member of the One Global Family Foundation and Alliances and a board member of the Unity and Diversity World Council. Most importantly, he's the grandfather uncle of the Prophecy of Warriors of the Rainbow Tribe of the Four Directions and Four Sacred Elements of Life. Daniel was born and raised in East LA. After public school, he attended and has a BA from UCLA in 1975, and I'll let you know that we're contemporaries, Chief Ramos, because that's when I got my BA also. After a 40-year career as a social worker, mostly for LA County, he retired in 2014, but he's always been and continues to be a community organizer with a passion and devoted to bringing justice, equity, and action on behalf of some of the most vulnerable and disenfranchised families and individuals in our community. The Chief has blessed us with his wisdom, experience, and spirit many times over the years, and specifically these past 2 years in several different occasions. Chief Ramos, we're so grateful to you for being with us today. So that we refresh our memory, or for some of us become more familiar with or gain an introduction to your traditions, let's start with a bit about mending the sacred hoop. Would you do that for us, please?
Yes, thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. I'm just truly always humbled, and for those who are listening or watching or both, the more that I know, the more I don't know. So in today's conversation, I'm not sure, but I'll do as best I can in helping to share light on the perspective of, to give some overstanding rather than understanding of the topic for today in that sense. But to begin with, it's one of the mending of the sacred hoop is something that has been spoken among many of the tribes across Turtle Island. My teachings are from the Lakota Nation, of which I'm still learning. But within my teachings at ceremonies, I have heard, as well as I have listened and looked into the mending of the sacred hoop. During the time of Wounded Knee, the Lakota speak, and it is there where they say, this is the sacred hoop has been broken. Um, as we look upon our cultural history, our geographic history, our history of societies that were already in place in 1491 and before, um, we know that what came from across the big waters was something from the very beginning, 99.9% of the time, uh, as I'm speaking and sharing, that we have put in place what we speak of as the sacred hoop, or also representing the circle of life, has been broken by the colonizer, the conqueror, the one who came and made lots of promises, broke lots of promises, but the one promise that they did make was they took all of our land. And in that, it is time that we come back to full circle, where we are now in place with about 500 years that we have looked back upon our horrific history, and have been speaking about mending the sacred hoop now for some generations. We speak about it in our sweat lodges. We speak about it in our dances and our ceremonies of all types and kinds. And so it is vitally important that it is not just Native Americans who are a part of the prophecy of mending the sacred hoop. It is all peoples in the world from the four directions, and which is what it is that I wear here as our medicine wheel, or one of the medicine wheels of our nations, in that representing the four races of man coming together. And so that prophecy is when we do come together and share the original teachings from Creator, from wherever places that we ended up in geographically on Mother Earth. We come back at full circle time from the four directions and share in the most loving, teachable way, and we open our minds and our hearts to learn each other's teachings, as ours are slightly different because of where it is that we are on Mother Earth. And we start learning each other's things, these teachings being what they are, we will restore harmony and peace in our world. We are truly the living prophecies today of everyone who is present today, from whatever nation it is that you are from. And we all come from the origins of indigenous people all around Mother Earth. We all know that the DNA teachings and the memory that is written across our DNA of the original teachings that were given to us as we fall into these categories, of which now are very much mixed, right? You know, our children marry cross culture. I've married cross culture. So, you know, we have a beautiful mosaic that now is rainbow colors of many peoples who have intermarried with each other, and sometimes, you know, through history, I had no choice but to do so. And so today, our responsibility, our obligation as part of humanity, human unity, is to bring forward the prophecy of mending the sacred hoop. And we are weaving a beautiful weaving of love and joy. Truth also is a very important part of that. And the feminine energy, the sacred feminine, is the catalyst for the great healing that is occurring now at this cosmic time of the prophecy of the white buffalo, that speaks that at this moment exactly we all knew was coming, and that the sacred feminine energy, the divine feminine, life givers, loving so far, so long, beyond the universe, that energy, along with ourselves as male and female within, as we all hold both, that we will line ourselves up in a respectful and honoring way and walk together forward, that we have bring forward the love that will heal the world. Because when you get into the spiritual realm, you are in a place where you can move matter and collapse time frame in the spirit world. Today we come together through, you call technology, I call it the unseen. It is the unseen that we are being able to come together from all four corners of the world today. I hope that answered. That was a long answer, but it was to the point. Thank you.
You know, what you've done is you've given us just a piece of the beauty of your traditions and your philosophy, and you always speak from your heart and from the depth of your spirit, and tie our spirits together in ways that we couldn't expect. So Chief, I'm just grateful for that answer. I'll switch gears just a little bit and ask you, I'm going to set the stage to tie this month of November and the tradition of what we've called Thanksgiving Day here in the USA. Over the centuries, the tradition called Thanksgiving has been to gather family together who are scattered and to pause to show gratitude. Well, showing gratitude is a celebration of humility and unity. And a story was told called The Story of Thanksgiving about friendship, cooperation, and compassion. But only part of the story has often been permitted to be told. Was that wrong? And can you fill in the missing pieces for us briefly?
Um, I like the ending there briefly.
It's a
Because
long story, we
it's a
know.
long story. I'll do as best as I can. Also, my I am speaking as part of my nation and from the circle of life on the prophecies that I've been given through the White Buffalo teachings as well. Um, for those, I have no desire nor wish to offend any other tribal nation or their elders who carry the stories of truth upon this topic of this day that we're speaking of. I just so that you're aware, uh, I will speak from what it is that I know what personal knowledge, personal experience, as well as those that have been my teachers and the research that we find in many places, whether it's the talking leaves or the unseen circle that we're looking through here today. Um, that story, yes, of course, yeah, it's not the truth. I don't need to call it wrong, but it's not the truth. Well, in one sense, you can say, well, if it's not the truth, then it's wrong. I guess in a linear sense, because I don't live and I don't think in the linear realm. And in that place, briefly, what did occur is that in 1621, a year after who we call the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock, um, there was a celebration of the Pilgrims of a successful harvest a year later in 1621. My knowledge comes from various subjects of the Wampanoag people, who were the people at Plymouth, the Mashpee Wampanoag, and there originally were 36 different Wampanoag tribes, of which today only 3 still exist, 2 of which are federally recognized. So in that, the story as told through, and I've gotten some information which is available to everyone. Please do your own research. Feel free to challenge anything that has been spoken or shared. But in 1970, let's go back to the very beginning of the day of National Day of Mourning. In 1970, the Wampanoag leader was, let's see, at that time, just going through some of my notes here, ended up coming forward, was being asked to give to share some remarks with the town of Massachusetts and Plymouth for that celebration in 1970. And that was, if I can give you his name, here. Oh, yes.
Oh, was it Frank James?
Frank James, but it was Frank James.
Mm.
I, of course, was looking more for his Wampanoag name.
Was it Wamsata?
Wamsatop. Thank you so much. You're being a very good helper here. Keep moving forward. He ended up coming to submitting his words to the town council, who actually then told him it was not possible for him to deliver such a thing. He actually spoke of his knowledge of which is that at that time, it wasn't long after the Pilgrims had landed, or they were already 4 days later, give or take. They hadn't really gone up the coast much. but were digging up the graves of their ancestors, had stolen corn and beans that were present that had already been grown. And they were also, was putting in place the selling of Wampanoag people for 220 shillings. Some of these things have not been verified, but when people speak of them and they carry them for generations, it's hard to say this is not truthful. These stories have been told over and over. And that at that time, this is what happened. And therefore, what he did, Tall Oak, another member of the Wampanoag tribe, ended up helping put together the National Day of Mourning. Because what happened when the town ended up saying, please rewrite this, we're not going to accept this, the refusal said, then I'm not going to speak at all. And then the tradition of people going to Coles Hill, which overlooks Plymouth Rock, was established. And since then, that has occurred every year since, and that's that story. The truthful part of which it is, there's questions about why didn't they actually do Thanksgiving, if they're calling it that way, in Virginia, where some of the first settlers also set up a colony. If I'm not mistaken, in doing, looking into more information about what really truly occurred, the first Thanksgiving declared by the President of the United States at that time, I believe in 1624, later on, was the celebration in Virginia that occurred because it was the original order to eliminate the cultural people of the land, Wampanoag, the Mashpee Wampanoag. They were given an order and that's in celebrating wiping out, creating genocide among the people. They could celebrate Thanksgiving after 1621. That's on record. It's in the Congress of the Library of Congress. If people would like to look that up. So what we know is that the colonizer, the conqueror, has written the history. And that's the history that is taught in our public schools. I learned that myself as a student in the public schools. And so the turkey has been the emphasis of Thanksgiving, of gratitude, taking away the genocidal, the racism, the sexism, all the things that came, the diseases, smallpox, all these things have been put aside to give way to the establishment, the government saying, we discovered America. And as Mark Charles, who's a Navajo speaker, goes around the country speaking his truth about the Declaration of Independence, the preamble and the Constitution, points out very clearly that anybody that was here at that time who was not Christian, who was not white, who was not a landowner at the time.
Uh-oh, Chief, you got muted. Oh dear. It looks like he's had a little technical problem. Oh, here we go again. Yay,
Yeah,
you're back.
so I was getting a call, so I had to make the call, move the call on. So, I know I'm in that sense, these are harsh words to speak. But at the same time, they're words of truth that our ancestors have been speaking in their prayers, in our sweat lodges, that this is the truth has to emerge. The truth must come forward. It is part of the White Buffalo prophecies that at this cosmic time in the universe here on Mother Earth, many truths that have been hidden forever will emerge. That is one of the prophecies that are listed in the teachings of the White Buffalo. That many truths that have been hidden will be emerging at this time. And that is one that has been emerging, has showed its head over the years, over the decades. In the 60s and in the 50s, there have been protests. Some have not been always peaceful, but we've risen our voice to this truth, and that the truth must be told. And so we continue to move forward with that truth. If I may, Leonard Peltier, our Lakshi, our elder in the Lakota people and of many peoples, who's been in prison for over 45 years now, he says that we have survived until today because we are an expression of the Creator's will and an expression of the Creator's truth. We are a manifestation of that truth, and all mankind should live within the boundaries of those laws given, the universal laws of peace and harmony, and all moving together in oneness. I hope that continues to move forward our conversation for today. And if there's any other questions, please feel free to ask. I do continue to do my best with a topic that truly is something that needs to be discussed.
Chief, I'm really grateful for that. And I will ask you another question that relates to what you've said, and that is that you talked about truth, and we're talking about mourning, and you've talked a lot about healing. And I wonder if you could address a question of how mourning is tied to healing, and in our world, and in our personal lives as well. For example, if I've harmed someone or if I've suffered a great loss, what should I do?
Thank you, Lamia. Mourning is part of the process of healing. When you have loss, there's this process of this weaving of life that moves in loss, even when life comes and is lost. So we have loss, we have grief, and we have mourning. And then people think that from mourning you go to healing. But the White Buffalo prophecy that continues to bring forward our truths today says that forgiveness must come before healing. Forgiveness, healing, then occurs. And as that such, the teachings of the White Buffalo are that we are living in the time that in order to bring the great healing, as the great awakening is occurring, that we must forgive the unforgivable. To forgive the unforgivable today by everyone and anyone is something that if we can come together, as Mark Charles in his We the People talk on TEDx speaks about this, he challenges our nation of people, of all peoples, that in order for us to really get to this place of truth and reconciliation of what it is that is occurring at this time and has been occurring now in some places among nations and the government, that we really must step back and acknowledge the foundations of which not only this country was founded on by the Europeans, but also that we must come to the reality and step back to the table and come to call our process truth and conciliation, not reconciliation. And there's a key here that common memory brings about reconciliation. Reconciliation is when you have a common memory with your opponent at that time. If there's been a falling out, that there's a common memory that there was a time when you had peace and you lived with peace for a definite period of time. And so what we do is we call reconciliation that common memory. Now, from what it is that I've been told, given, looked up, researched, there was some peace between the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims that lasted approximately about 50 years or so. But the details of that treaty, which I have not read, but what I've learned from what people have spoken about that treaty is that it was not a treaty of like, let's build a new life together in this new world. It was a treaty where it's like, we will not be aggressive towards you if you agree not to be aggressive towards us. And if anyone in your tribe on the pilgrim side creates a crime or does an injustice thing, then we and vice versa, then that particular body of people, whether it's tribe or the colony, they will be the ones who administer the justice for the wrongdoing. So that lasted about 50 years, and it was not about building together or anything. And what we find out later on is that as that was occurring, that Virginia Thanksgiving occurred during that time with a different tribe of people, where they were slaughtered and killed in that. So it was like the Wampum were not part of that part. They actually did have some demonstration of some peace for a while, but as I've listened to elders, to teachers, to mentors, to medicine people, as the West moved forward from the European side, there were not any other tribes who had years of peace before a falling out. The westward move was to come and take everything you can from those who are not even considered human. I base that on the 1452 Papal Bull Declaration that is still used even today in our court systems, such as the Supreme Court. And in that declaration from the Pope Francis V, he gave permission to all those who were traveling across the big waters that if they found anybody or anything, they had the authority to claim that on behalf of the king and queen or the country from which it was that they were from. So whether it was a living two-legged, we know as ourselves, we were not considered actually human at the time. And that continued all through the conquering of the West and all the tribal nations. So we should step back to getting back to the table of conciliation with the government, the US, owning in a remorseful way of saying, what can we do, if anything's possible, to bring forward healing among the people, all those that we know today that have been found in the mass graves of boarding schools in Canada, as occurring here in the United States. There was no peaceful period of living with our settlers that were moving across the country, and it's not to demonize them. It's to say this was the movement. This was the spirit of the energy of those being sent to conquer, to kill, to grab, to take, and so that still lives today in our world. But we must, and I say we as all peoples, we must come to the consciousness of knowing that what we've been doing to Mother Earth and all the sacred elements of life, with climate change, with all the things that are going on in our world, with war, with drought, the lack of all things, instead of living in the abundance of which it is that we have and we started out with, needs to come back through the place of prayer, through the place of gathering together, to the place of speaking our truths to one another and not demonizing each other for it. That we can leave that pain behind and move forward in a new world, which is what our responsibility and obligation is today, is to mend the sacred hoop of life, mend the circle of life, and begin to work together to salvage and to renew and give a new birthing to all of life here, of which we are a part of, and we are here to take care of. I hope that takes into account maybe a few questions.
Oh my goodness. I had about 12 different questions, and I think you've addressed all of them in so much depth there, in such a profound way. I would like to have other folks who are in this Zoom meeting put some questions in the chat box now, if they would. And while they're doing that, I'll ask you something a little bit different, Chief Ramos, and we can get back to any of the questions that they have about what you've discussed, about what they've learned, about challenges that they have, either personally or something that they just can't get their arms around. So if any of you have questions like that, please put those in the chat box. And if you want to address personally, just raise your little virtual hand or raise your hand like this if you can, and Cheryl will let me know if I don't see that. But meanwhile, I'm going to ask you, Chief, if you see some injustice that's being overcome today, and how and where, and is there something to be thankful for at this time?
I appreciate the question, and you know, justice is always moving to bring injustice back to its knees and to overcome the challenges of which it is that it has posed for all peoples. One that comes to mind, which I just was a very small and humble part of a 215-mile run in California back in July, was a run where we carried prayers for the murdered and missing indigenous women that have disappeared along all the pipelines. That now, and I say we've not overcome that, but we've begun, there's a movement to overcome this that is absolutely vital to our healing for all our communities, because that now has evolved to murdered and missing indigenous relations. All peoples are disappearing. We're still being taken and disappearing from our families, from our communities. But what I am grateful for, what my heart is speaking and is continuing to feed the home fire that burns passionately for justice, as I carried justice since I was born, is that in Congress we now have acknowledgement that there is truly an issue that needs to be dealt with across Turtle Island, and that is this issue of murdered and missing indigenous relations. And there has been a committee has been set up. There are now some state committees that have also followed suit from the federal level, and there are communities, of course, many communities. This is a grassroots movement. I'm not saying that it started in DC. It's a grassroots movement that has finally been acknowledged by the government, that says there is so much truth, there are so much statistics, there are so many stories about children, young women, mothers who have, and even movies that have been made about this issue. We need to do something about it, and there is a coming together on that. That this is something that really is very much vital to the healing of our world as well as our country. And that speaks to also the other white buffalo prophecy about the healing. The healing of the white buffalo prophecies speak very adamantly and strongly that in this time of our healing, we are in the healing. Hello, we are in the healing. If you're not healing, then maybe it's because you don't wish to be healed. But I will speak it back to where I was speaking to. The prophecy is that this great healing will come through the sacred feminine energy. Women will be a major part of healing our world. They are the life givers. They carry the life we share and bring into the world. What power, what profound pain. And on top of that, they love so far beyond the universe that they are being the greatest example of love today for those who walk that walk. And us as men are remembering, not discovering, we are remembering that in the beginning we loved like woman does, and we need to come back to that love. And in that we will walk together in that divine essence of healing, love, joy, and truth, and stand sovereign unto ourselves as our own nations of people. And that is oneness of all people. That means we are the human unity of humanity that is doing the healing through our women. It is time to respect, honor, lift up, edify, magnify, amplify, listen to what woman is sharing today about what it is we need to do in this world to bring peace and harmony again.
I was going to ask you, what can or should each of us as individuals do? But I think you've just given us a challenge. I think you've just given us words of wisdom that must come from some deep personal experience that you've had and some great learning that's been shared with you.
I have,
Yeah.
having been given away at birth in Los Angeles to the county foster care system, I have a good story, but I was placed with unrelated family who became my family. The divine always has his hand on us, or her hand on us, as we speak of who it is that Creator is for us. And in that, the personal experience is that I've learned after caring for decades, my life, the shame of being unwanted. I finally have come to the place in my prayers and in my ceremonies where I realized that the mother that interviewed with the social services spoke that she was giving me away to a family who could give me all that she knows in her life at that time she could never ever give me as a child that came from her. So she put me in the hands like of Creator's hands, whose Creator then put me in the hands of good loving people who gave me a good life. And I have discovered at this time in my life, not knowing my birth family at all in the last couple of years, I have met some of my birth family. I have sisters who are angry with me because they did not have such a good life. My mother was one who did not have peace in her life. She was always going in anger, domestic violence, not against the children, but in the home, was something that they lived with and grew up with. So the personal experience of being able to come to a place of forgiving the one who brought me into this world, who didn't even abort me and could have. God's love, divine love, Creator's love, Takashala, Wankantanka. That essence of unseen love that's so divine placed me in life where I have had a good life. And I'm grateful for that. And I know that this medicine lies within all of us. Since we were brought into this world for specifically this designated time, we are all supposed to be here by our families chosen to be present for the healing in our world. Whether the old adage of many are called and few are chosen is no longer. It's many are called and few choose. It is time to choose. Are you ready to be healed? Are you ready to forgive the unforgivable to be healed? And if that's really hard, then the question here is, are you willing? Is there a willingness? And if you don't have that willingness, maybe is there a smaller willingness to be willing, to be willing to be healed? We have a birthright. We have a birthright to an abundant life. We all do. It is time to leave the life of lack and wanting and claim our birthright to live healthy, well, and helping and supporting all life in all that surrounds us. And today, that's how I walk. That's the walk I've been given, and I've surrendered to that walk. And surrender is the magic key for the power to live life completely, fully, filled with love, unconditional, infinite. This is who we are as a people. I thank you so much, Mariana, for bringing me forward today for this journey. Oh.
Thank you, Chief. You know, we did have a couple of questions in the chat box as you were speaking, but you've given us such a beautiful message to walk away with, to carry with us. and to take out into the world and out into the universe. I almost hesitate to ask any other questions. Patty Heckman, you're the one that requested this. You can unmute yourself and tell us if you really want an answer to the question or if we should just exit with the message that the chief has given us.
Yeah, actually it was beautiful. Thank you, Marietta. Thank you, Chief Ramos. Oh my gosh, so good to have you back with us at SCIC again for yet another event. And as usual, you deliver, so like Marietta said, so beautifully and so strongly that, my question is about something else that is an injustice against, the Yuki tribe here in Northern California that surfaced. I never knew about it, and I guess it was covered up so well that a lot of other people didn't know about it. But I was wondering why I felt so dismayed over the conversation that was going on about this tragedy. And when you said there has to be forgiveness, there is grief, there is mourning, but there has to be forgiveness before there's healing. And then I knew why I felt such despair and dismay. It's because that wasn't happening. I didn't feel like, that there was even, this sense of loss. There was just kind of anger, and maybe that's what has to happen first is anger. But then also, I just feel like the conversation jumped to, well, what are we going to do about it? Okay, we'll give some money here and we'll provide, free legal work, and we'll do this and we'll do that. Just kind of like, let's make it go away and move on. But I think what you said, it actually did answer, at least for me, how I could make peace with this. And that is, if there's like mourning going on, and then forgiveness and healing.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and that was to be a little more detailed. The physical healing, before a physical healing can occur, a spiritual healing must occur first. And so that is the difficulty that we are having with ourselves when we're brought to the table in these conversations of reconciliation, is that the physical is being going back and forth, all the pain, all the suffering, all the struggle. Yes, it did occur, horrific, and still going on today in different forms and ways. But we are spiritual people. We all are. And until you address the spiritual nature of the people, of who it is that you have done these things to, and to help them through their journeys, by at least, if anything, owning up to the truth, we did do so. This will contribute. It has started. If you remember back at Standing Rock, the time when all the veterans came, there were over 6,000, I think, showed up, maybe more. They were only expecting maybe 2,000. But a time when they all came towards the end of the year, in the winter, all of them came together under a tent and got down on one knee. And there was a spokesperson, a young man, who spoke for them. He asked for forgiveness from the very day that Europeans set foot upon this continent, and all of what the military and their designees had done to all the people, culture, language, all traditions, all things. They asked for forgiveness for all of that. It was an example that it can be done, because grandfather Leonard Crodog, Lugshi, he was a person who sat in the wheelchair, and he accepted that request, and it came with a condition or two. I don't know if those conditions have been followed up on, but it just shows that we can do these things in the most direst of times. There are those with a conscience and a heart that says, we have been doing the wrongdoing of lineage that we don't carry, but it's been done under our badge and under our banner. and that we have a responsibility to be accountable and responsible for that. Therefore, it is time to heal. And it's time to say, we must do something to make things right. I hope. I would be more than happy to answer the questions that came up through my email if you would like as well.
Do you want to put your email in the chat box, Chief? If you wish, you may.
Yeah, if you could do that for me, that would be good because I'm on my phone.
Oh, yes, we can do that.
Okay, it's Mayan runner, like the Mayan people. As my ancient lineage goes all the way back to the Mayan nation. Mayan runner, because I am a runner, 51 at yahoo.com. Thank you so very much.
Well, I just can't tell you how grateful we are for you and for what you've shared with us today, as always, from the bottom of your heart and from the depths of your spirit. And I think we've all been challenged to learn more, to look at things that have been uncovered and things that have been written and things that have been revealed to us, to become aware, to become conscious, and to become actively engaged wherever we can. I don't know that wounds can completely be healed quickly, and I don't know that making amends in the present can ever completely redeem the actions of the past. But we have to try. We have to be together in this effort. And I just want to thank everybody who's been part of this meeting today. I think we can be encouraged also to look at this later on. And when we need to be reminded of the words of the chief, here they are for us. We can go back and listen again to what he's had to say and what he shared with us.
For those
So, yes.
thank you. I just share a few names and a documentary that shows the forgiving part. The Dakota 38 is a documentary by Jim Miller, who was actually an actual descendant of one of the 38 from the nation that was hung back in the 1800s. He has done a ride in the middle of winter during that time, like Wounded Knee does their ride. But he speaks in that documentary saying, let me be the first to forgive what was done to my family at that time. So it is occurring. The energy is there. The prayers are out. They're being answered. Lila June, Parthenay, also a young woman, sings songs, writes poetry, as a book out, speaks about the forgiveness and the healing of people. Mark Charles, in his TED Talk and his other information, speaks about the foundations of which it is we're challenged to come to and accept, and also time now to get to the table and to speak the truths of those of whom we've harmed, so that we create no harm any longer and bring peace in our world. Thank you so very much for all the moments and the thoughts in this humble way, this humble elder. I'm so blessed to be remembered even and given thought. I surrender to that of my Creator to walk this walk today in my way, as He has shown me how to walk, and she continues to be that light within me to do so. And with all of you at SCIC, the work you do in community at Southern California Interfaith Council, if you're not a part of that organization, it's time to get on board. They're right here where we need to mend and weave a new sacred hoop of life, the circle of life, to bring forward new community, to grow food, to teach us all again how we stand together as one people. And SCIC, I applaud. I pray for you all the time in your leadership in our communities. And I surrender to be a servant of SCIC as they see that I can do and bring whatever good I can share, not only in words, but in the doing. It's time for the doing, not just the talking. Aho, Takiasa. Thank you.
Thank you and bless you, Chief. Cheryl, do you have some things that you want to share with us about things that are coming up for the South Coast Interfaith Council? Go ahead and tell us about it, Cheryl, if you will. Can you unmute yourself and let us know what you're sharing?
Okay, so this coming November 11th, this coming Thursday, we've got we're reclaiming Armistice Day. November 11th, we now know it as Veterans Day, and of course we want to honor our veterans, but it was originally a day dedicated to the cause of world peace, and to be thereafter celebrated as a day of peace and a remembrance of, you know, because the end of World War I was supposed to be the end of all, you know, the war to end all wars, and unfortunately that hasn't been the case, and we really need to focus on the Armistice Day in being a force for peace in this world. And so we're gathering at a location in Long Beach, along the beach, and we'll be having a short march towards the Lone Sailor Memorial at Bluff Park. And we've got several speakers. We have Tahisha Knapp Christensen of the Omaha tribe. She's going to be starting the program with a land acknowledgement, and so we appreciate her participation. And we've got quite a few interfaith speakers that will be present at this program. So we hope you're able to join us in person. We'll be following, you know, CDC safety protocols at the event, but it will be outside. So we hope you can join us for that. Many organizations are co-sponsoring this event. And then on Tuesday, November 23rd, it's both an in-person and a virtual event. And it is a interfaith Thanksgiving service, and there will be several speakers. The South Coast Interfaith Council is a co-sponsor for this event, but the organization hosting it is the South Bay Interfaith Organization, and SCIC has co-sponsored this event for, I guess, several years. This will be the 49th annual of this event, and it will be the in-person will be at St. Lawrence Martyr Church in Redondo Beach, and then there's also the Zoom link to register, and all of these events are on our website, scinterfaith.org, so you can register there. And then we don't have Religion 101 in either November or December due to the holidays, so we'll be back in January with that event. And then last but not least, SCIC is a nonprofit, and you know we appreciate your participation in our events, and if there's any way that you can help support us financially, we would very much appreciate that as well. So that's all for me.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for giving us a taste of what we can look forward to. And thank you all for being part of our time together today. So let's stay in touch and do good work, and see you soon. Bye-bye.